We rolling? Okay, good. It's August 3rd, civic holiday. It's Monday. I'm at, I guess, let me look. This is called Morningside Park. It's right next to the University of Toronto campus in Scarborough. It's actually a wonderful place. I discovered it just being out and about. And I always told myself I'd come back and just grab a seat here and hang out. I'm a few feet away from a family. It looks like they're about to get their big party on. They're practicing singing a happy birthday. There's quite a few of them. It's the new Canadiana happening right in front of me, a few feet from me, folks. It's nice to see. Parks are being used properly the way they're supposed to be. Picnic tables are full of people. Pretty good. So these vlogs, these hits that I've been doing are kind of going to end up being the teaser, the behind the scenes of the podcast that I'm doing. So there's a lot going on, like I said, and I'm going to stop teasing it now. I'm going to start to unveil some of my plans and why I've been doing this. So depending on when you and I, whoever's watching this, met, you're probably looking and going, Jesus Christ, you gained weight. And some of you might be, depending on when we met, might be saying, man, you lost a lot of weight. That's great. So really, for those of you that know me, doing this is actually not really out of character. A lot of what I've been talking about is stuff that I've always, whether I was working in the kitchen at the restaurant, I'd look over whoever was working next to me and start barking out about what's going on in the country. When I was younger, always was very opinionated. Michael used to call me the dumbest genius in the world. More about that to come. But so it's really not out of character. It's kind of a culmination of everything I've done in my life. In fact, when I was 30 years old, I started a newspaper. And it was right around the time I was working on the radio. I was still at CKGM, which was branded the Team 990 at the time. And I ended up transitioning to another station later, CKDG. But I started my own paper in the West Island, and I was doing everything. And really that came about because nobody would hire me. I didn't have the pedigree to work at a paper, and I really felt I could add something. So I started my own. I was selling the advertising. I was writing the editorial. I was paginating everything. And it was shoddy and sloppy, but I put it together and it got it done. And it got enough attention for Jim Duff to call me and say, hey, why don't you come work with me over here at the Suburban? I guess part of it was because I was in their way. Part of it was because maybe he saw something in me. And here I am 25 years later. God, I can't believe it's that many years, but it's more than 25 years. And I'm talking about Jim Duff still and the lessons he taught me. So Jim, if you're out there, if it ever makes, I know you're out there, I see your posts every now and then. And if this makes it to your eyes, well, thanks for everything, because I learned a lot from you. And here I am mentioning it. You were like my J. Jonah Jameson. Jobs, no jobs, freelance. So, so it's not really out of character. And after my travels and everything that I did moving around, I've never been driven by money like a lot of people. I've never been driven by career. For me, it's always been about a challenge, something new. I'm like, I just see something and I want to try it and I do it. And I tell myself, I can do that. I think I learned that from my dad. At one point, I remember my dad was in business and he and his partner were having this, he told me this story. And he and were having this challenge and his partner was like, I don't want to do it. How are we going to do it? And my dad just said, relax. It's just courier. They're in the courier business. It's just delivering. So that became kind of my mantra. And later on, it translated when I was running my bar on the beach in Wasaga. And when things got stressful, I would tell everybody, relax, it's just hot dogs. It's just hot dogs. Everyone will be fine. And so a lot of what I've done comes from that and the desire to experience different things and new things. So this is what's led me to where I am here now. And everything's been a culmination of all my experiences kind of rolled into what I'm doing now. What am I doing now? Well, the project is called The Canadianist. There's two aspects. There's the political aspect, but there's also the voice, The Canadianist. And The Canadianist is basically a news network. It's a network of everything that's going on today in Canada. Basically, I write about what's affecting Canada and Canadians in our day-to-day lives. Some of you know that I've driven rideshare, and through driving rideshare, I've actually driven over 14,000 people. They laugh when I tell them that. They get in my car and I go, hey, you know where you're sitting? You're the like 14,583rd person to sit in that very seat. And the stories I've heard from people coming to the country, and even when they don't talk to me, I'm just part of their life for 15 minutes, and I hear everything talking about, yeah, I'll pay next week. Sorry, sweetheart, I'm going to be late. Some guys are telling them that they're on the way home when they're going somewhere else. I mean, I hear everything, and it's kind of like being a bartender. People just like talking, so it's taught me a lot. It's given me an insight. It's really motivated me. There's a gap I'm jumping over from how I got there and where I was before it, and that gap was from the pandemic until about a year ago. And after all of my adventures, I actually fell into something I really liked. Everything that I had fallen. Many of you know, Faye and I were running a restaurant called Marzatelli. We had this nightclub thing going on, and it was quite busy for a while. And then the pandemic kind of changed everything, and it was never the same after. So we just it ended, And in retrospect, I was always talking about how the pandemic did this in, and it did. It accelerated. We were busy, and it was good, and we probably would have been okay because we were okay. We were busy making money, but I think at this point, many small businesses are feeling the effects of the demographic shift. A lot of the customers we used to see aren't going out anymore. They're retired. And there's a much smaller group coming through with different habits. So a lot of businesses, a lot of restaurants, between that and inflation, the math simply doesn't add up for a lot of businesses, especially in the restaurant industry. And we're seeing that now. Don't fool yourself, folks. If you look at your local restaurant and you see them busy on a Saturday night, I promise you the guy's struggling. Talk to them. Can tell you firsthand. So I had a period of reflection. I was living in Ottawa, and I went on my proverbial walk in the snow. I had some time to think about everything. It's like, where are we going from here? And I've never been one this is where the weight gain came from. I don't smoke. I don't really drink. I've never done drugs. So for me, when I was sitting around on my duff, making through the pandemic and the post-restaurant period, it came out in food. And I gained, some of you may have seen this, not many of you, because I've kept to myself for the last 3 years, but I hit 380 pounds at one point. And family intervention and a bit of work. And this January, I decided to take it into my own hands and get serious, and I've lost 100 of it. I'm still a little heavier than I was normally, but I'm down to 289-ish, so almost 100 pounds of it, like that. And these folks decided that they want the table behind me. That's okay. They're part of this hit. So so I lost a lot of the weight. I'm still, getting through a lot of the turkey neck, and I'll tell you what, I lost the weight and the hair. That's a whole other story. At the age, I had a good run. Anyways, so to bring it all together, so essentially what I'm doing is talking about all of my adventures through the Canadianist network and putting together there's two sites. There's the news site, Canadianist.news, and this is all print stuff, and I do features. I wrote a lot about the people I've been meeting, and you're going to be hearing about that. And then there's also the radio aspect, which is essentially going to be the first run of the podcast and all the features I'm doing. And then they'll kind of migrate and live on the podcast channel permanently after their run on the radio. So the radio station's up now. It's playing a mix of music and some hits and just promoting everything. But it's really going to kick off in September. The print's been up for a while. It's what I've been working on, and it's pretty full of stuff. We've got stories. It's pretty GTA Toronto centric. I mean, I'm living here. I do want to start to add the other cities I've lived in, Ottawa and Toronto. So these vlog hits are really just to set up, whenever I come on like this, it'll be to set up the podcast and what I'm doing on the Canadianist.news or the radio station. And then the real hit will be coming after. I might wear the same shirt, doing it the same way, but I'll just have a different tone of my voice. But this is more of a behind the scenes thing. So that's what to expect. One last thing I want to talk about, because I also know some of the people that know me are looking, what the hell's he doing with the initial? Why? And I know it sounds pretty pretentious, and there's actually a very rational reason for it. When I started posting online, I realized it turns out, I thought the name Christopher Michaud wasn't that popular, but it turns out it's not much different than John Smith. When I went online and searched my name, Christ, there was, I don't know how many. And this was like a few years ago. And um, there was like another guy who works for Reuters as a reporter. There's an artist in Montreal, street artist with the exact same name. So there's a lot of people, and I just wanted to distinguish myself. I was the only one using my initial M. Other guys use an initial too to do the same thing, and it wasn't the same. So I was lucky there. Um, it was so funny when I found out that there was so many Chris Michos. I actually started a Facebook group called the Chris Michaud Club. I think there was 50 or 60 of us in there at one point, and it was out of control. I would talk. I may have mentioned the story. I'm talking about myself, talking to myself again, but whatever. I would mention something in the group, and nobody knew who the hell was talking to who. Chris Michaud, who, what, which one? So it's pretty funny. Anyways, so the initial is really just to distinguish me on the internet and in my work so people know which Chris Michaud we're talking about. Because, like I said, Chris Michaud, I think, translates into English as John Smith almost. So that's what it is. So I'm going to hang up now and probably change spots because the new Canadiana is about to kick into full blast with their birthday celebrations, and I'm happy for them. The barbecue smoke is up, and there's a lot of people. There's a table behind me that's getting set up to have their meal, and I'll move on and do the real hit for the podcast somewhere else. Maybe I'll stay here, but that's it. So stay tuned. I'll be talking about my books too. Yes, they're actually real. I actually wrote some books. So that's part of the podcast. Thanks a lot. And I appreciate you all checking in.